Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. Thank you for liking and subscribing. So please, if you're not subscribed, please press that subscription button. It's completely free. Press your notifications, the notification bell, then you'll get all the updates of these cases that we're going to talk about today or any other case. And yeah, thank you to my members. Thank you to all of you that bought me Ko-fis, sent super stickers, sent emails, left nice messages. Thank you for all of you for caring about the victims that we talk about. It's so appreciated, and just all the positive impact you give to my channel. Thank you for being part of the VNC community. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you. Now then, so first of all, we're going to talk about Lily and Jack. Lily and Jack, these two adorable children. Let's just have a quick recap of what happened with Lily and Jack. A very long time ago now. I mean, I'm trying to think, when was it they disappeared? It's got to be coming up to a year now. Was it May last year? Let's just check the date that these two. Now, the sad thing is, as you find when you look into these cases, you can't believe how many children go missing. The children go missing all the time. Just how does that happen? Of course, we're covering the Gus Lamont case as well. He's missing. Children go missing from their homes on a regular basis. And quite often, the answer is never found as to what's happened to them. And really, this case is typical, unfortunately. It's not an exception. It's not like that it never happens. It does happen. Happens a lot. Children disappear into a puff of smoke. Nobody knows what's happened to them. It's very sad, isn't it? Anyway, that's what happened here. So Jack and Lily. Lily is the old. She's 6. I think she's still 6. I don't think she's had a birthday yet since she's gone missing. Whereas Jack, he was 4 when he went missing. He is now 5. He has had a birthday. So they went missing sometime in the early hours of May the 2nd, nearly a year ago, 2025. And they lived in a rural home on Gairloch Road in Lansdowne Station, Pictou County, in Nova Scotia in Canada. And they disappeared. They were living there with their mum, Malaya. They had another sibling, Meadow, a baby, and their stepfather, suppose you would call him that, Daniel. Daniel Martell. Now, it was a very strange circumstances because the very next day after these children disappeared, Malaya, the mum, left Daniel, went from the property, didn't hang around. This is literally the very next day she left that property. Didn't hang around to see, because it was initially thought the children had got lost, wandered into the woods. The house is surrounded by woods, but Malaya did not stay to find out. She was gone the very next day. So, of course, this has led to a lot of suspicions on Malaya. Why? How could you leave? Before when your children could turn up at any minute. I mean, it's different. Maybe 3 months later, and you've given up hope that they were going to get found in the woods, but literally the very next day, when those children might have been lost and alone in the woods, and then they suddenly might have been found, and they would need their mum, wouldn't they? So, yeah, that was a very strange thing. And of course, Daniel Martell himself has come under a lot of scrutiny. He's the stepdad. He did a lot of interviews in the early days. Oh, he's all over being interviewed by mainstream media, YouTube, you name it. He was getting interviewed by it. And but it's gone very quiet now. I do think that's significant. Personally, I think it's significant that we don't hear anything from Daniel anymore. Why has he suddenly gone quiet? I wonder. Anyway, a few things have happened over this investigation. We could probably do with another press conference. There's not been the police chief or the law enforcement haven't spoken out for a little while, so probably it'd be a good thing if they did another press conference soon, because there have been sort of some developments. Now, a big development was that Daniel was arrested. He did get arrested a little while ago, but not related to the disappearance of Jack and Lilly. He was arrested for was it forcible confinement, an sex assault, and we don't know on who, though it's probably Malaya, but we don't know. You know, that's the names have been kept secret and all the proper details. Anyway, he was arrested and charged with that. And in fact, very recently, he appeared in court. In fact, I might have a video about that. So, yeah, a week ago, he appeared in court on sex assault and other charges. Let's see, there was a little video of him going into court. Let's have a look, see if I can find it, and we can have a look at that. Now, a lot of people don't like Daniel. I just couldn't decide about Daniel. You know, in the early days, I was thinking, oh, mate, you know, because quite often parents, step-parents, you know, family members get accused of things when they're not guilty. You know, that's what happens. So it's just running. Oh, no, there is no ad. Oh, yeah, let's have a look at this video of him going into court. So it's gone very quiet since this has happened. You know, so as I say, it's not related to the disappearance of Jack and Lilly, but there are serious charges that he's facing. Let's have a look at the videos, make sure it's sharing. You know, they're serious charges. sex assault, forcible confinement. You know, it's not. Now, the other thing about him being involved in etc. Again, you know, he says he isn't. Other people say he is. I don't know what the truth is, but let's have a look at him going into court on his other charges. So he's definitely been arrested and charged with this. It's interesting, isn't it, really? Because it reminds me a little bit of Gus. This case reminds me of Gus Lamont's case, very much so. Now, in the Gus Lamont case, the police have, I mean, Daniel hasn't been declared a suspect. Let me just say that now. The police have not said he's a suspect, so I want to make that clear. But in the Gus Lamont case, and of course the two grandmas have been declared suspects, really. And one of the grandmas was arrested on unrelated gun charges. It's like, do you think the police do this? They try and find something on these people so that they can put more pressure on them. Do you think that Daniel is involved in the disappearance of Jack and Lilly? A lot of people do. And to be honest, in the beginning, I did not think so. Well, I won't say I didn't think so. I was trying to be, the jury was out, you know, until there was any evidence. And I was hoping that the children would be found. Like we all were, you know, the first week you're hoping they'll be found alive. After that, you know, that two young children like that can't survive on their own. So after that, you're just hoping that they'll be recovered. And then as time goes on, then you start thinking, well, they're not in those woods. This is really, again, what happened with Gus Lamont. The police realised that they had no evidence that Gus Lamont had wandered off like he was supposedly had done. So they came to the conclusion that if he didn't wander off, then some foul play has happened or an accident. So I feel like that in this case. Initially I was trying to give Daniel the benefit of the doubt. One thing we have to remember about Daniel as well, he did pass a polygraph. And we know he passed a polygraph because he told us all about it. He was very happy that he'd passed this polygraph. He spoke about it with media, etc. We've watched his interviews. So he's very vociferous in the beginning, Daniel, about what had happened, his theories on what happened. Of course, him and Malaya had split up by then. He was very talkative in the early days. Now he's gone radio silent. It makes you wonder, why has he gone radio silent? Anyway, the reason that I'm doing this video talking about him today is there's been a new round of polygraphs, apparently, but we don't know what the results were. But what we do know is apparently Daniel has been contacted for comment and he's not commenting. So it just makes you wonder, doesn't it? Why is he suddenly gone all quiet and now suddenly doesn't want to talk about the case when you couldn't shut him up in the beginning? Hi, Marg. Yeah, I think he's involved now, Marg. So I've come to that point now where openly I don't mind saying I think Daniel is definitely involved. You always, it's oh God, I just got chill going down my spine then. Because right from the beginning, one thing you will remember that I said about him was he reminded me a bit of Ian Huntley, the Sower murderer who died just literally a few days ago after being attacked in prison. Because he loved talking to the media as well. He enjoyed his 5 minutes of fame, didn't he? He thought he was so clever, a pathetic little man, really, in Huntley. But after he murdered Holly and Jessica, he was all over the media, wasn't he? And thinking he could bamboozle the police and, expressing fake concern. And he did, obviously he doesn't actually look like Ian Huntley, but he just reminded me of him in his demeanour and the way he wanted to talk to the media so much. Now, the thing is how the police don't have, we have to presume, I think, that Lilly and Jack sadly are deceased. Surely. How can they not be deceased, really, after all this time? But where are they? And that's what I think this is what the police are looking for. It's the body. Same with Gus Lamont. They've declared that the grandma, the tramma and the grandma are suspects, but they can't arrest them and charge them because they haven't got enough evidence yet. And I do think that this is probably the case with Daniel Martell, personally. So this was him appearing in court not long ago for unrelated charges, assault charges, probably against Malaya, but her name's not been released. There he is. He's going into interview room 2. All the press were there, of course. And then he came out. Now, he doesn't look so happy now, does he? I mean, he's virtually reveling in it before, going on, being interviewed, saying now he passed his lie detector test. He had nothing to do, that he's appearing on all sorts of YouTube channels, etc. He didn't look so happy there. Let's just have it. Yeah. Watch him coming out again. Yeah, he looks a bit less happy now than he did. Yeah. Now, he says he's there for Lilly and Jack. That's all he cares. He just wants Lilly and Jack to be found. Yeah. Well, say where they are then. I'd say definitely knows where they are, personally. Let's see what the... take
12 months.
I'll put it back to the beginning because I didn't realise I had it on mute. Try again. It's whirring a bit. The internet's slow today, unfortunately.
Daniel Martell walks into the Pictou County Provincial Courthouse Monday morning, met by a symphony of shutter clicks. He's been charged with 1 count of assault, 1 count of sexual assault, and 1 count of unlawful confinement against an adult female between September 2024 and March 2025.
The window of the charge, the multiple charges that are before the court are beyond 12 months. I would proceed by indictment based upon the time frame of the charges because there is no statute of limitations per se, if you're proceeding by way of indictment.
Martell first became a familiar figure in the media when his stepchildren, 6-year-old Lilly and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan, went missing on May 2nd, 2025. To this day, Nova Scotia RCMP say the case remains a missing persons investigation, and Martell maintains his innocence. But now, these new allegations put Martell under a different spotlight. There was only standing room left in Pictou County's Courtroom A as Martell was arraigned on his charges. His appearance lasted no more than 3 minutes before Judge McKean dismissed him. Leaving the courtroom immediately after, Martell declined media's requests for comment. Despite the heightened interest in this case, the Crown wants to remind the public that in the eyes of the court, this matter is separate from that of missing children, Lilly and Jack Sullivan, and as such, the victim's identity must be protected.
And that violation of a publication ban can be the subject of police investigation and or charges. Tread carefully.
Martell is currently in the process of retaining counsel. His next day in court will be March 30th. Ella MacDonald, Global News, Pictou, Nova Scotia.
So March the 30th, his next appearance in court. I feel like the police are trying to put pressure on Daniel. We'll watch that one more time because it was a little bit glitchy. But yeah, they're trying to put pressure on Daniel. And suddenly now he doesn't want to talk to the media after he's been talking to the media, every chance he got in the early days. He knows where these children are. I'm not frightened of saying it. That's how I feel, in my opinion, of course. It's only my opinion. That probably people out there think Daniel's completely innocent. Personally, I don't. And the other thing that we're going to look at in a minute is these new polygraph tests. They're about the blanket. So, when searches initially were done on the first couple of days, part of Lily's blanket was found in the bushes, wasn't it? And of course, a lot of people think that was planted there. So apparently these new polygraphs center around the blanket and, did people, it's not only Daniel who's been polygraphed again. I think probably several people have. But we're going to listen to that article anyway in a minute. But we'll just watch this one more time. I'm interested to see his face. He doesn't look happy at all. The one thing I did think from the beginning was he was a bit stalkery. He turn up at the court where he was going for court because him and Malaya have lost the custody of Meadow now as well. But they allowed supervised visits. And there was one time, wasn't it, he said that he turned up at the courtroom for his supervised visit or the centre or wherever it was. And Malaya was looking in the boot of a car and he came up behind her. And it probably frightened her to death. She's terrified of this man. I do think that. Now, I don't know what Malaya knows, doesn't know. I don't know if she's involved in it in any way, but I think there's definitely coercive control in this relationship, or there was. And don't forget, somebody contacted very early on the Friday morning that Jack and Lilly disappeared. Somebody, but we don't know who, emailed the school to say that they wouldn't be in. Now, people were saying initially it was Malaya because that would be, but was it Malaya? The thing is, if you email, if you live with a partner and you know you can go into their computer, or maybe she was only allowed to use his computer, Who knows who sent that email to the school? It's an email. So it could be anyone could have sent it. Somebody sent one about 6 a.m. that morning to say that Lily and Jack would not be into school. I think that's probably part of the investigation. Who did send that email? Was it really Malaya? You know, what did Malaya know or not know? You know, surely, maybe she knew that he'd killed Jack and Lily or something had happened to them. But I don't believe she would be staying silent, would she? She's obviously working with the police in some way or another, because this is 100% Malaya that is the victim in this case, even though they're not naming her, because they were together at that time, unless he just went off and did it to some other random person.
Daniel Martell walks into the Pictou County Provincial Courthouse Monday morning, met by a symphony of shutter clicks. He's been charged with 1 count of assault, 1 count of sexual assault, and 1 count of 24 in March 2025.
The window of the charge, the multiple charges that are before the court are beyond 12 months. I would proceed by indictment based upon the time frame of the charges because there is no statute of limitations per se, other if you're proceeding by way of indictment.
Martell first became a familiar figure in the media when his stepchildren, 6-year-old Lilly and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan, went missing on May 2nd, 2025. To this day, Nova Scotia RCMP say the case remains a missing persons investigation and Martell maintains his innocence. But now, these new allegations put Martell under a different spotlight.
Yeah, so it's important to remember as well that so far it is still a missing persons investigation. Unlike the Gus Lamont case that's been elevated to a major crime, and then of course they get more resources then, don't they? This so far has not been declared a major crime. It is still missing persons. So that's important to remember. It's not been elevated to a homicide yet.
There was only standing room left in Pictou County's courtroom in May as Martell was arraigned on his charges. His appearance lasted no more than 3 minutes before Judge McKean dismissed him. Leaving the courtroom immediately after, Martell declined media's request.
I don't know who this woman is with him. Is this his new woman? Who is she? People, I've heard that rumour that he's got a new woman already. Men like him, they do, because, you know, unfortunately, you know, there's always a woman out there that will fall for their bullshit, you know, basically, because they start off really nice, you know, start off all nice and love bombing and this, that, and the other, and then they, you know, coercive control does not happen overnight, does it? And it's normally those people who seem the very nicest in the beginning that end up like the horriblest.
For comment. Despite the heightened interest in this case, the Crown wants to remind the public that in the eyes of the court, this matter is separate from that of missing children, Lily and Jack Sullivan. And as such, the victim's identity must be protected.
And
it's funny, isn't it? Because it must be freezing. He just had that jumper on, no jacket or anything. Everybody else has got jackets, you know, bobby hats, scarves, you know, and there's Daniel just rocking up with his thin jumper on. Yeah, look, there he is. Yeah. The thing is, if he has done something to those kids, it could have been an accident. Who knows what happened? But it'll be haunting him, I think. You know, I've been thinking about that a lot lately. I know that psychopaths and that they're not supposed to have any remorse or whatever. He looks haunted though. Look at his eyes there. I mean, you know, doesn't look too clever, does he? For a young man, you know, he is young. So, you know, but look at his eyes. It'll be haunting him. I'm sure of it. I hope so anyway. So yeah, I've basically decided that he's guilty. I know I'm not supposed to do that, but I've given Daniel the benefit of the doubt for quite a long time, and anyway, seems strange to me that he's not coming forward now to say what the results of this polygraph are, because I'm sure if the results were negative, you know, that he was or he passed, I'm sure he'd be around telling us about it. Maybe he's been told not to talk about it. I don't know, but that's what we're going to look at next. So let's have a look at this article. So look, this is the blanket. This is the blanket, or the bit of the blanket. Oh God, I keep jumping at you with things. So, second round of polygraphs conducted in the disappearance of Nova Scotia children. Let's listen to the article, and I'll put the picture up, then we'll listen to it. Oh my God. I put it back to the beginning because I don't know if it was playing at first. Please let me know if you can hear it. Oh. So one of the only pieces of physical evidence in the case. So this bit of a blanket. I mean, it look. I've got to be honest. I think that's the first time that I actually seen that picture, but it looks staged, doesn't it? How's it ended up a strip like that, tangled around the tree? How has that even happened? No, if Lily had her blanket with her, and then didn't wasn't it in the bin, the blanket? You know. So anyway, you know, I do think Daniel's one of those thickos who thinks he's clever. It was planted there, you know, to make it look as if Jack and Lily wandered off. So the other thing we shouldn't forget as well is that the neighbours said they heard cars driving around, but also we mustn't forget that the police came out and said they did not confirm that at all, but they didn't deny it. They didn't deny it that vehicles were heard, but they didn't confirm it. They just said they had no evidence for that. Was that Daniel driving around trying to cover up evidence? What happened to Jack and Lily? It's very unusual for two children to disappear. I mean, children do go missing, sadly, often, but it's unusual for two children to go missing at the same time. Bless them. I just hope they are together wherever they are. Bless them. There's adorable children. How anyone, if it wasn't Daniel, I'm sorry. You know, Daniel might even be watching this. This is something I've come to realize. Sometimes people, even little YouTube channels like mine, you can never be. You know, you don't know who's watching. And Daniel, if you are watching, I would say to you, just go and confess. You know, think about your, you know, don't be worrying about this world. Think about what's going to happen to you in the next world if you don't do the right thing. That's what I say to all perpetrators. Oh, you can't hear it. You can't hear it. Hang on. Sorry, I didn't realise you couldn't hear it. So sometimes it works if I take it off and then put it back on again. Let's try again. Let's try again. Yeah, sometimes you can't, for some unknown reason, sometimes you can't hear it the first time and then it plays the second time. No idea. Let's go back to the beginning then.
March 11, 2026, 5 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Nova Scotia RCMP have conducted a second round of polygraph examinations in the disappearance of Jack and Lily Sullivan, with 2 of those tests focused on one of the only pieces of physical evidence in the case, a light pink blanket found hanging in a tree. Lily, 6, and Jack, then 4, were reported missing on the morning of May 2, 2025, from Lansdowne, NS, a sparsely populated area about 140 kilometers northeast of Halifax. Their disappearance sparked a massive grid search of the thick woods surrounding their home, where they lived with their mother, Malethia Brooks Murray, stepfather, Daniel Martell, and their younger sister. A piece of Lily's blanket, found on the first day of the search tangled in a tree's twigs, has been the subject of much speculation, fueled by a lack of answers in the case. Watch family member who found pink blanket was asked about it during polygraph. Family members on all sides have suggested online and in media interviews that it was planted. Haley Ferdinand, Brooks Murray's stepsister, was one of the people who came upon the piece of tattered blanket off Lansdowne Station Road, a kilometer from the children's home, as they scoured one side of the road and came back up the other, said Ferdinand, adding that Brooks Murray's half-brother, Hayden Murray Smith, was with her at the time. We came back up the other side and all of a sudden there was this pink thing in the tree off the ground. She described it, and sure enough, we sent the picture to Malethia and she ID'd it as being Lily's, said Ferdinand in a recent interview at her home outside Truro, Nova Scotia. It was just very emotional to see. Ferdinand said she was asked 4 questions during a polygraph examination on February 20th. Did you plant the blanket in the tree? Did you place the blanket in the tree? Did you put the blanket in the tree? Did you leave the blanket in the tree? She said she responded no to each question, and at the end, she was told she passed the examination. Hayden Murray Smith confirmed to CBC News that he was asked the same 4 questions during a polygraph examination on February 19th. He said he responded no to each question, and was told by the examiner at the end that he passed. RCMP declined a request for an interview, but confirmed in an email that more polygraph examinations have taken place as part of an extensive investigation being led by Major Crimes. The Mounties also confirmed the blanket, one of 2 pieces of physical evidence in the case that the public is aware of, is still at the RCMP lab for forensic examination. The second piece is a boot print consistent with Lily's foot size found on the pipeline trail near the family home.
So that he just said then that they confirmed it was an investigation by Major Crimes, but they're not commenting on. Now, definitely, if Daniel would have taken further polygraphs and the police have said that further polygraphs have been undertaken, Daniel, if he would have passed, he would definitely be out there saying he'd passed.
In Canada, polygraph tests are used as an investigative tool and are not admissible in court. Michelle Genies, an associate professor in the Criminal Justice Department at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, said police conduct polygraphs to help shape interviews, narrow down suspect pools and to guide who they should be speaking with as part of an investigation. Genies, whose areas of expertise for recovering missing persons, said she feels the fact that police are conducting a second round of polygraphs signals that RCMP have exhausted all immediate leads. The best thing to do when you have a long-term missing persons case would be to go back from the beginning and start over and with fresh eyes and look for anything that they might have missed before, said Genies, who has been following the case closely. It is absolutely concerning that the investigation has gone on for this long and we still have no recovery. All missing persons cases are usually resolved very quickly. So this in and of itself is very abnormal and concerning. Details about the blanket's discovery are laid out in search warrant applications sought by RCMP early in the investigation. The documents said the blanket was discovered around 4 p.m. on May 2, 2025, and police dogs were brought to the location, but no scent was picked up. 2 days later, another piece of the same blanket was seized from inside a trash bag at the end of the driveway at the children's home, said the documents, which lay out an officer's summary of the investigation to that point.
Yeah, the rest of the blanket was found in the trash bag, wasn't it, in the home? Why was it in the trash bag? How would this is definitely planted, this blanket, because how would a bit of it get out of the trash bag and end up wrapped around a tree? I mean, it's impossible, isn't it? In my opinion, anyway. So I think it was definitely planted, and the boot prints as well. I think they were planted.
Martell had been using the blanket to stop a draft from a door, it said. About a week before the disappearance, Brooks Murray took it from the door because the weather was getting nicer and she threw it in the garbage. The document said, summarizing Brooks Murray's statement to police. Martell told CBC News in a January interview that he had voluntarily provided a DNA sample to investigators the month prior. He said it was his understanding that his DNA was taken in connection with the blanket, but RCMP have not confirmed that. According to the court documents, a number of people underwent polygraphs in the weeks and months immediately following the disappearance.
The thing is, he's not going to be scared about giving his DNA, is it? Because obviously his DNA is going to be on the blanket because he lived there. So he's not going to worry about his DNA on the blanket.
Including Martell and Brooks Murray. Ferdinand and Murray Smith were not polygraphed during the first round of tests. Previously told CBC News that all the questions he was asked during his first polygraph were presumptive that the children were no longer alive, such as, "Did you kill Lily and Jack?" Martell did not respond to a request for comment from CBC News that she has undergone a second polygraph examination and that she was told she passed. She would not elaborate on the questions she was asked. During an interview in January, RCMP Staff Sergeant Rob McCommon said there were a number of different areas investigators were following up on in connection with the blanket. "We'll make decisions on that once we have all that we need, but right now we're not in a position to really comment on that." For Ferdinand, her polygraph was simply another box to. "I knew that I went into the test being truthful. Another normal day, another task to complete in the pursuit of finding out what happened to them," said Ferdinand, becoming emotional at times. "It hurts the longer time goes. We just want answers and we want Lily and Jack home." More top stories.
So, yeah. I think that's the blanket in the tree. That's the woman that they were talking about. So this is, who's this? She's a relative. Oh, so this is Haley Ferdinand Malaya's stepsister. And she was one of the people who came upon the piece of blanket. And she's the one who says she's passed the polygraph test, asking if she planted the blanket. Malaya says she's passed it, and Daniel is not saying anything. So what do you think? I think a few of you do think that Daniel is involved. I do think it's significant that he's not coming out to say he passed the polygraph, because you couldn't wait to tell us it passed the other polygraph. Now, polygraph means nothing, of course, in the court of law, but as they were saying earlier, polygraphs are used just as a tool, aren't they, in investigations to try and narrow things down or give the police an idea or confirm what they maybe already think. So, yeah, the polygraph in itself cannot be used in court, but it can definitely be used in the course of the investigation. So that's what I wanted to tell you about Jack and Lily. Again, don't forget to subscribe if you want to, as soon as there's further news about Jack and Lily, I'll be back on to talk about it.